Coming up on today's show, we are going to explain why the Kansas City Chiefs defense is the biggest nightmare the NFL could have envisioned as we gear up for the postseason. We'll explain more coming up in just a bit. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us here on today's edition of the Kansas City Chiefs Report. Before we go any further in today's show, though, folks, we are battling our Texans channel. Jeremy Chuggs, good guy, running things over there at the Texans today, and they are challenging us to see not only who can gain the most subscribers on their channels this week, but they also want to beat us on the football field as well. So we want to beat them in more ways than one, folks. Let's show them why the Chiefs have the best fans in the National Football League. For daily news and rumors, live shows every week, watch parties, including this Saturday between the Chiefs and Texans, you got to subscribe to the Kansas City Chiefs Report. Subscribe now for free. Let's win this sub-battle this week, and we'll get started with today's show. So, the Chiefs defense had a very big day against the Cleveland Browns. I felt it was a breakthrough performance for this Kansas City Chiefs defense last week, and I think that the Chiefs defense, based on what we saw last week, a beast has awoken of sorts as Kansas City gears up for this playoff run. Spags has got something cooking that I think you're going to like for the next several weeks ahead, beginning this week against the Houston Texans. Let's go back a bit and look at what the Chiefs defense did against Cleveland. They allowed just 266 total yards allowed. Only 7 points were given up this past week on the road. But most notably, the Chiefs had 6 total turnovers. That was the most turnovers a Kansas City Chiefs team has had since 2016. They also managed to haul in 5 sacks. They really made life hell for both Jameis Winston and DTR. And they did a really good job when it came to 3rd and 4th down conversion attempts from the Cleveland Browns offense. They only allowed Cleveland to convert on 4 of 13 3rd and 4th downs for the entire game this past Sunday. One of the things I've said for a while on this show is that the Kansas City Chiefs have a championship recipe. It's pretty simple. They run the football well, and they play great defense. And it doesn't matter who you are, what style of play you do. If you do those two things, run the football well and play great defense, you are going to compete with anybody, and you're going to be a Super Bowl contending team. And say what you want about this Kansas City Chiefs team in 2024, that maybe they haven't dominated opponents like they should. Maybe this Chiefs team has played down to their competition. I understand where you may be coming from with all that. But as long as they continue to do these two things of running the football and playing great defense, that's going to translate to wins in January and in February. You look at the Chiefs' defensive rankings so far for 2024. The Chiefs have allowed their opponents to score about 18.5 points per game. That's 5th best in the NFL. Opponents' yards per game, 306.9. That's also 5th best in the NFL. 3rd down conversion rate, pretty high, about 19th best in the NFL at 39.53%. But based on the numbers we showed you in that Cleveland game a week ago, that would tell you that the Chiefs have potentially turned a corner on that front. Opponent red zone touchdown scoring percentage, 12th best in the league at 52.38%. And opponents' touchdowns per game, they've held their opposing offenses to just 2.1 touchdowns per game. That's 5th best in the NFL. So the defense has done really well this season, but I have every reason to think, based on what we saw against Cleveland, that they're only going to get better from here. Do you believe in Kansas City's defense? It's our pinned comment today. You got 2 options here. Type B for believe, D for don't. Weigh in the comment section. Let us know what you think. Before we go any further in today's show, let's tell you about our sponsor. That is GameTime, and GameTime is the best place to go for the best seats, the lowest prices guaranteed. Whether you're looking for tickets to see your Kansas City Chiefs in action, maybe you want to head to Lawrence and see KU, or go to Manhattan and see K-State. Maybe you want to go watch Mizzou in Columbia. They got all those tickets for you, folks, including this weekend to see the Chiefs take on the Texans. You choose the event you want to go to. They then let you choose your seats if you like that seat or not, and then you're checking out on Apple Pay, Google Pay, Venmo, all major credit card providers. GameTime is focused on togetherness this holiday season. That means when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better, and it's the perfect gift. GameTime is a new feature called GameTime Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. GameTime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. They have their super deals. If you see a super deal, that's a deal you don't want to pass up on. They have their seat views. You can get the visual, see what that seat is like. You can also customize your seat as well. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use code ChatSports, $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download GameTime today. What time is it? GameTime. The link is in the comments and the description of today's video. So if we were to look back on this Chiefs defense in 2024, one of the biggest concerns for Kansas City was their ability to get after the quarterback. That was something that has been a problem for them throughout much of this season. You did bring back Charles Omenihu, and that certainly helped things out. And based on what we saw last Sunday, that issue of getting after the quarterback, applying pressure, getting those sacks, that's starting to become less and less of a concern. Sunday was a huge step in the right direction. Currently, right now, the Chiefs' sack rate is at 6.45%. That's 22nd best in the NFL, towards the bottom half of the league. But with all those sacks that we saw this past week, everybody was getting involved against Cleveland. You had 2 sacks from George Karlaftis. You had 1 from Wharton, also Charles Omenihu. Nick Bolton also had half a sack, as did Drew Tranquill as well. And let's start with George Karlaftis. I think Karlaftis is a game changer. When he is on, he's on like Donkey Kong, all right? I mean, it's a whole nother level when his play is at a high level of what he does to this Chiefs defense and the ability that he brings to the table. So far in 2024, this year hasn't gone like what last year was. Karlaftis had that big breakout season and then got off to a bit of a slow start to 2024 as now we've seen in the last few games he started to put it together with 3 sacks in the last 3 games with 7 total for the season, 8 TFLs, 3 pass breakups, and 22 quarterback hits. George Karlaftis has been very good. And think about this. When we talk about the impact come playoff time, last year Karlaftis was awesome in the postseason. 19 tackles, 3 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries. I'm hoping that Karlaftis does what he did last postseason, because if he can, watch out for his impact there. I can't mention the Chiefs defense without talking about Chris Jones. You can't sleep on the CEO of Sack Nation. He's bringing the boom every single week. He, along with George Karlaftis, this past week, folks, they combined for 13 total pressures in Sunday's win against the Cleveland Browns. And you think about this, when it comes to Chris Jones, this is a guy that's constantly taking on double and triple teams, and yet he still has a massive impact in what he's able to do, in the openings that he creates for guys like Karlaftis and others because of those double teams he's taken on. So far this season, Jones has compiled 5 sacks, 9 TFLs, a forced fumble, in 16 QB hits. He is a force to be reckoned with each and every week. It is so great to have Charles Omenihu back in the lineup for the Kansas City Chiefs, another guy that is a difference maker, and he's fully healthy, and it didn't take him much time at all to catch up to speed with this Chiefs defense coming back from injury, making his debut a few weeks ago. In the last 3 games, Omenihu has had 3 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble. That sack and forced fumble, of course, coming this last week against the Cleveland Browns. More on the Chiefs defense in a moment, but first, let's ask you, the pass rush, is it A-okay? Is everything fixed? What do you think? Is that play for yes, in for no? Being honest with me, way in the comment section, let us know. The biggest issue for the Kansas City Chiefs defense at this point in time is the corner position. After the injury to Jalen Watson, it really left a void at that other outside corner spot next to Trent McDuffie. But good news for Chiefs fans, help is on the way for that outside corner spot. And by way of Steven Nelson, who signed with the Chiefs last week, and there is a possibility that Steven Nelson could make his season debut this week against his former team, the Houston Texans. Nelson, coming out of retirement, obviously has not played all of 2024. But one point that I feel like is very important for Chiefs fans to understand when it comes to Steven Nelson. The last time you saw Steven Nelson play for the Kansas City Chiefs was the 2018 AFC Championship game where the Chiefs lost to the New England Patriots. And the version of Steven Nelson that we've seen in recent years, compared to the version that he was in Kansas City, is a totally different football player. He had a career high last year of 4 interceptions, arguably the best season of his entire career there in Houston in 2023. And what we've seen, whether it was in Houston, whether it was in Philadelphia, whether it was in Pittsburgh, this guy has been an impact player over the last several seasons. And if Steven Nelson is in football shape, if he is truly ready to go, as he says he is, then this could be what saves things, what fixes things for the corner room, which has really struggled giving up big plays in recent weeks since Jalen Watson went down. By the way, I have to mention Trent McDuffie. Trent McDuffie, one of the best corners in all of football. He's doing big things. And there's a lot being asked of Trent McDuffie since Jalen Watson went down. We knew that McDuffie was going to take on a bigger role anyway when the Chiefs moved on from L'Jarius Sneed. But McDuffie, to his credit, he's answered the call. Last week got his first career interception. Took him 3 years, but I think a good sign with McDuffie, I know some people are going to point to, how does it take 3 years to get an interception? Well, they weren't throwing it a whole lot his direction. And eventually when Jameis decided to be Jameis again, his time finally come, and Trent McDuffie was able to get that pick. And you talk about being a lockdown defender. McDuffie holding his opposing quarterbacks to a completion percentage under 58%, a QBR of 81.3, 3 touchdowns allowed, 444 yards. McDuffie has been that dude. If Nelson plays as well as expected, then this group, led by Trent McDuffie, and I haven't even talked about Jamari Conner, who's been pretty decent as well this year, a breakout season for him, then they're going to be in good shape when it comes playoff time. This corner room, which has had some question marks and concerns, they're going to be A-okay and good to go. And we mentioned 2018 earlier. Think about the early years when the Chiefs were contending for Super Bowls, 2018, 2019, and all that. The corner rooms were arguably the weakest unit of those Chiefs teams that went on to play for AFC championships and Super Bowls. But the pass rush was able to bail those guys out and help out that corner room, and they were able to play through that. The belief was that Brett Veach back then didn't really value the corner position that much. So this is not an unfamiliar territory, and I would argue that the Chiefs' corner room now, compared to what they were back then, is much better off. So for sure, this Chiefs corner room is the weakest link of the defense, but it's still in a much better situation than we've seen in previous years in these circumstances. So I think that's a very important point to bring up. We mentioned Trent McDuffie. Do you think he's the Chiefs' defensive MVP right now? Or is it somebody else? Type HY for hell yes, HN for hell no. Weigh in the comment section. Let us know what you think. For continuing Chiefs coverage, subscribe now to the Kansas City Chiefs Report. I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks for joining us, and we shall see you next time here on the channel. Subscribe now for free. We'll see you later.